in New York. The ex-president's legal team is shifting their attention to the federal classified documents case down in Florida. Paging Aileen Cannon. This coming Friday, Judge Cannon is set to hear a motion from Trump's attorneys to dismiss the indictment entirely, arguing that special counsel Jack Smith was somehow illegally appointed. This comes just days after Trump's team also urged Judge Cannon to reject Jack Smith's request for a gag order in the case. Glenn Kirshner is back with us. Why is she hearing this?
Because she seems to be inclined to hear every frivolous motion Donald Trump's lawyers follow. I mean, she's like a beaver building a logjam, a dam with all of these motions. One way you can guarantee never being able to set a trial date is if you always have more motions to resolve before you can get there. That seems to be one of the reasons. And we know Donald Trump's legal team, look at what he did in New York. Bogus motion after bogus motion after bogus motion. I think we can call them all Hail Mary passes. None of them were caught, right? Not by a trial court judge, not by the appellate court judges in New York. He went to trial, got convicted in a New York minute on the evidence. I am afraid Judge Cannon is, standing uncovered in the end zone, waiting to catch Donald Trump's Hail Mary pass and maybe dismiss the case. And here is what drives me to distraction. We've talked about a motion to recuse before. If she dismisses this case in a way that deprives Jack Smith of being able to appeal the dismissal, and there are ways to do that once the case moves into trial, we're going to be looking back saying, why in the world wasn't there a recusal motion that was litigated in the full light of day? Let the 11th Circuit rule one way or another, and then I think we'd be more willing to live with the result.
That, for me, Glenn, is the key pieces. I for the life of me, do not understand, based on the evidence, not the evidence of law and fact brought by the prosecution, but the evidence of the judge herself. The way she's managed this case, it is very obvious to anyone who's paying attention that this goes beyond, she's new and she's never done this and this case is too big for her. All of that may be true, but there is ruling after ruling and holding up the process the way she has, this deep-rooted sense, for me at least, that there's more going on here that should have been looked at by the 11th Circuit in the way she's managing and handling this case.
And there's one really important data point that confirms what you're saying, Michael. When she proposed 2 lawless jury instructions on what the PRA means, and everybody looked at it and said, no, that's not what it means. Here's what she said. Usually a judge will say, I'd like your input on whether you think these are appropriate jury instructions. That's not what she said. She said, I want you to assume these are correct formulations of the law and engage, argue accordingly. But they weren't correct formulations of the law. That's a tell that she's not just incompetent, she's trying to box them in to something that is just dead wrong.
I want to talk about the gag order and specifically the argument we're hearing from Trump's lawyers. They argue that Smith's request should be denied on the basis of the ambiguities, lack of enforcement criteria, and resulting chilling effect.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that argument?
And they said something like, this is a totalitarian attempt at chilling core political speech. No, it's actually about trying to protect the lives of FBI agents. That's what it's about. When I read Jack Smith's filing and we all learned that the prosecutors and the FBI agents had coordinated with Donald Trump's lawyers before they executed the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Why? To make sure that neither Trump nor his family members would even be in the state of Florida at the time. With that knowledge, what did Donald Trump post? The FBI was looking to come down to assassinate me. They were locked and loaded and ready to go, and they were going to harm my family. I mean, it's such a bold-faced lie designed to incite violence against FBI agents that, I'm glad Jack Smith is pushing this motion.
But is it going to go anywhere? But what is happening?
Is it going to go anywhere? The answer is no. No, she's, as I say, uncovered in the end zone, catching Donald Trump's Hail Mary passes, spiking Trump's football left and right, and I don't know when we're going to get to trial.
I just want you to understand this is the limits of both my sports knowledge and my legal knowledge. What you were saying here, but I think the expression you're getting from all of us is just like, how could that be so, right? Sort of on the bigger legal maneuvers, as you have said, there is a pattern. Sort of the question of the gag order. I mean, it is unmistakable his own pattern of behavior that has led to the necessity of multiple gag orders. And we don't need to imagine in the theoretical what happens if he is not under one of those gag orders. We now have very real world examples of how he behaves with those gag orders in place and without.
And Alicia, thus far, the machinery of government, prosecutors and judges alike, have been willing to sacrifice the safety of everybody, witnesses, jurors, judges, prosecutors, and their family members, to Donald Trump's violence-inducing behavior. It's a question I ask myself every day. Why? Why aren't the institutions of government stepping up and addressing the threat to the security and the safety of all these folks?
Because they don't see him as a threat, because they still view him through the lens as a former president of the United States and not as a felon, not as someone who is a criminal defendant that is standing before the system on trial for a whole lot of mess. And as long as you continue to look at him that way, works to his advantage. He bends the system to work against itself in that regard, because that's why the gag order process has been largely a joke. It has been an absolute joke, because everyone at this table knows if anybody else were in this situation, spewing the crap that comes out of this man's mouth to this day, that every judge in this country would put their behind in jail to chill.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been no gag order.
Wouldn't have been no gag. It wouldn't have been no gag. It would have been a jail order. But the system continues to bend, to your point, in a way that is unnatural for it. And that is the problem, I think, longer term.
Everything Michael said. Yeah, it is. The system just continues to view, and we can have a longer conversation about, I do feel some type of way about the whole felon thing. Like, yes, he's a felon, but I'm concerned. I know some formerly convicted felons, right? And I don't think because you are a convicted, I think that Donald Trump should be able to run for president, and not just because he's a felon. That's another point, entirely. But the system has not met the moment. And if the system doesn't meet the moment, what does that mean for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years in this country?
Yeah, and I've seen plenty of convicted felons actually work toward rehabilitation. Yeah. And you know the first step on the road to rehabilitation? Acceptance of responsibility for what you've done wrong. When are we going to see Donald Trump take the first step on the road to rehabilitation?
Ain't happening.
That's a rhetorical question, my friend. Glenn Kirshner, thank you so much for being with us. Next, House Republicans have a lot of priorities, but helping you, well, that does not seem to